The spit hit her cheek at exactly 6:47 a.m. in front of everyone. Jenny Martinez, 43 years old and already worked to the bone, stood frozen with a coffee pot in her trembling hand. The kid was 17, wearing a watch worth more than her car. He was laughing. But 10 men in leather vests weren't. What happened next would shatter a family's empire, resurrect a woman's dignity, and prove that some debts get paid in ways money can't buy. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and stick with me until the very end of this story. Drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far Jenny's story travels. Now let's go back to where it all started. Jenny's phone buzzed at 4:30 a.m. Miguel again. "Mama, I can't breathe right." She was already out of bed, hand on his forehead. Burning up. Still. "The medicine's not working, is it?" he whispered. "It's working, baby. Just needs time." That was a lie. The cheap antibiotics from the discount clinic weren't touching whatever infection had settled in his lungs. The real medicine, the stuff the doctor actually recommended, cost $217. She had 43 in her account. "I gotta go to work. Mrs. Chen's coming to check on you." "I'm 12, Mama. I don't need—" "I know, baby, but humor me." She kissed his forehead and tried not to think about what happens when mothers can't afford to save their children. What she didn't know was that in 3 hours, 10 strangers would save her instead. The walk to the Mountain View Diner was 40 minutes. Her car had died 2 months back transmission, and the $800 repair estimate might as well have been $8 million. So she walked, every morning, in shoes with holes covered by cardboard that was starting to disintegrate. But that morning would be different. That morning, everything would change. She pushed through the diner door at 5:50 a.m. Gerald was counting money at the register. "Morning, Gerald," he grunted. Didn't look up. 6 years she'd worked here. 6 years of please and thank you and perfect service. He'd never once learned her son's name. "Coffee's low," he said. "I'll make a fresh pot. And table 9 needs wiping. Those bikers leave ring stains." Jenny bit back what she wanted to say. Table 9. The Devil's Advocates. MC sat there every Tuesday. They tipped better than anyone else, never complained, and always treated her like a human being. Gerald treated them like a liability. "I'll get it clean," she said. What Gerald didn't know was that the bikers were about to become his worst nightmare. She tied her apron, started the coffee, checked her section. The diner was quiet, just the hum of the freezer and the tick of the old clock above the register. Peaceful. The kind of peace that comes right before everything explodes. At 6:15, she heard the motorcycles. 10 of them rolling into the parking lot like thunder given shape. Through the window, she watched Marcus Stone climb off his Harley gray in his beard now, but still solid. The other 9 followed. Tommy, Sarah, Jackson, Bear, Ghost, Chains, Doc, Ratchet, Smoke. They walked in, and the diner felt safer somehow. "Morning, Jenny," Marcus said. "Morning. Table 9. Where else would we go?" They settled into the big booth. She brought coffee without asking. "Miguel's still sick?" Marcus asked when she poured his second cup. Her hands paused. "He's fine." Jenny. "He's fine, Marcus, really." He looked at her the way fathers look at daughters who are lying badly, but he didn't push. "Pancakes today," he said. "Stack of 5. "Coming up." She was halfway to the kitchen when Sarah called out, "Hey, Jenny, you need anything, money rides, whatever, you just say the word." Jenny's throat tightened. "I'm okay, but thank you." She wasn't okay, but pride has a way of editing the truth. What she didn't realize was that in 32 minutes, pride wouldn't matter anymore. At 6:35, the BMW pulled in. Jenny saw it through the window, sleek, black, expensive. License plate read BWHTMR1. She knew that car. Everyone in town knew that car. Senator Whitmore's son. "Oh, hell," Tommy muttered from table 9. "Rich boys here." Marcus glanced out the window. "Everybody stay cool." But staying cool was about to become impossible. Braden Whitmore walked in like he owned the oxygen. 17 years old, designer jacket hair perfect. 2 friends flanked him. One wore sunglasses indoors. The other had his phone out already filming. They chose a booth in Jenny's section. Of course they did. The universe had jokes that morning. "Be right with you," she called. "We're in a hurry," Sunglasses said. She grabbed menus, put on the smile that cost a piece of her soul every time. "Good morning, what can I—" "Do you have anything that isn't complete garbage?" Braden interrupted. His friend's phone camera swung toward her face. At table 9, chairs creaked. Marcus's hand went still on his coffee cup. "We have a full menu," Jenny said carefully. "Everything's fresh." "I seriously doubt that." Braden didn't look at the menu. "Bring me egg whites, no oil, and fruit that doesn't look like it came from a dumpster, and coffee that doesn't taste like motor oil." "I'll get that right. Did I ask you to speak?" He looked at her name tag. "Jenny." The diner got quieter, not silent, just aware, like animals before an earthquake. "No, sir," she said softly. "Then don't. Just bring the food and try not to screw it up." She walked to the kitchen on legs that wanted to collapse. Little did Braden know he'd just started a war he couldn't win. In the kitchen, she leaned against the prep counter. 3 seconds. That's all she allowed herself. Then she put in the order and went back out because bills don't pay themselves. And Miguel needed medicine she couldn't afford to resent rich teenagers who would never understand what it means to choose between pride and survival. But that choice was about to be taken out of her hands. The breakfast rush started. Farmers, truckers, mill workers. Jenny moved between tables, refilling coffee, delivering plates. Her feet screamed in those cardboard-lined shoes, but her smile never cracked. At table 9, the bikers ate slowly, watching, waiting. "She shouldn't have to take that," Sarah said quietly. "No," Marcus agreed. "She shouldn't." "So why are we sitting here?" "Because Marcus said, we wait and see if the boy's smart enough to learn on his own." Tommy snorted. "He's not. Then we teach him." What none of them knew was that the lesson was about to get much harder than anyone expected. At 6:42, Jenny brought out Braden's egg whites and fruit. Perfect plate. She'd checked every piece of fruit herself. Braden stared at it like she'd served him sewage. "This is it." "Yes, sir, it's what you—" "The fruit's bruised." He pushed the plate toward her. "Are you incompetent or just stupid?" The fruit wasn't bruised, but arguing would cost her the job. "I can bring different—" "I want the manager, now." "I can help you." "Are you deaf, manager, or do I need to use smaller words?" His friends laughed. The phone kept recording. Gerald appeared from the back, wiping his hands on his apron. "What's the problem?" "Your waitress," Braden said lazily, "can't follow basic instructions. Look at this garbage." Jenny stood there, silent, small, disappearing. At table 9, Marcus put his fork down very carefully. "I apologize," Gerald said immediately. To Braden, not to Jenny. "I'll comp your meal." "You think that fixes it?" Braden smiled. "How about you train your staff to not be completely useless? Jenny's one of our best. Then I'd hate to meet your worst." Gerald turned to Jenny, eyes cold. "Be more careful." She nodded. That's all she could do. Nod and smile and survive. "Bring me a real breakfast," Braden said. "Steak and eggs, medium rare. And this time try to remember you're being paid to serve, not breathe." "Yes, sir," she whispered. What Braden didn't see was Sarah gripping the edge of the table hard enough to whiten her knuckles. What he didn't hear was Tommy saying quietly, "Marcus, I swear to God." What he didn't understand was that he'd just crossed a line drawn in blood and brotherhood. Jenny took 5 more orders, delivered 3 plates, refilled a dozen coffees. Her hands stayed steady because they had to, because Miguel's medicine depended on tips, because survival isn't optional when you're the only thing standing between your child and disaster. But in 4 minutes, survival would mean something completely different. The steak came out perfect. Gerald had cooked it himself, terrified of complaints. Jenny brought it over at 6:46. "Finally," Braden said. He cut into it, chewed, made a face. Overcooked. It wasn't. It was perfect. Pink center, perfect sear. I can have the cook. No, I'm done. He stood up. His friends stood with him. The phone was still recording. You know what your problem is? Jenny said nothing. There was nothing to say that wouldn't destroy her. You people don't understand your place. He pulled out his wallet, threw a single dollar on the table. $1. For a $30 meal, Gerald had already comped. Maybe spend less time pretending you matter and more time learning to do your job. He walked toward the door. She thought it was over. She was wrong. He stopped, turned, looked at her with eyes empty of everything human. People like you, he said clearly, slowly, making sure everyone heard, are why people like me stay on top. Then he spit in her face. Time stopped. The saliva hit her left cheek. Warm, deliberate. It dripped toward her jaw. Jenny's hand rose halfway, then froze. Her eyes went wide, not with anger, with humiliation so complete it erased language. Braden laughed. His friends laughed. Gerald stood behind the counter doing absolutely nothing. The customers looked at their plates like if they didn't see it, it wasn't real. And Jenny just stood there with spit on her face and tears in her eyes and nowhere to go because rent was due and Miguel needed medicine, and sometimes survival means swallowing things that should choke you. But then a chair scraped at table 9. Marcus Stone stood up. He didn't stand fast. He stood the way mountains move, inevitable, irreversible. Oh shit, Ghost whispered. Here we go, Tommy said. One by one, the other bikers rose. 9 people becoming one unified force. They didn't run, they walked, boots heavy on the floor. A sound like judgment approaching. Braden turned. His smile flickered. What's this? Marcus didn't answer, just walked. The other 9 fanned out behind him. I said, what the hell is this? Braden's voice climbed higher. Marcus stopped 3 feet away, close enough to be felt, far enough to be a choice. You're going to apologize to the lady. The words were quiet. That made them more dangerous. Excuse me, Braden laughed, but it sounded wrong. Do you know who I am? Don't care who you are, care what you did. What I didn't do anything. She's just a... Finish that sentence, Sarah said from behind Marcus. Please, I want to hear how it ends. Braden looked at his friends for support. The one with the phone had lowered it. Sunglasses had taken a step back. My father is Senator Robert Whitmore, Braden said. One phone call and this place gets shut down. One call and all of you are looking at charges. Harassment, assault, whatever I say you did. Make the call, Marcus said. You think I won't? I think you will, and I think it won't matter. Braden pulled out his phone, fingers shaking now, but he dialed. Put it on speaker. 2 rings. Braden. It's 6:45 in the morning. Senator Whitmore sounded tired. So tired. Dad, I'm at this diner and these bikers are threatening me. I need you to... What did you do? The question hung like an execution. What nothing there was, just this waitress who... What did you do, Braden? Why do you always assume... Because you always do something. Every time. Every goddamn time I get a call from you, you've done something. Braden's face went red. That's not fair. Handle it yourself. I'm done cleaning up your messes. You're 17, not 7. Figure it out. The line went dead. Silence poured into the space where Braden's power used to be. His hand holding the phone was shaking. He's busy. He'll call back. No, Marcus said gently. He won't. You don't know that. Kid, I know that look. That's the look of a man who's used up all his father's patience. You're on your own now. Braden's friends had moved to the door. Not running, just gone. So here's what happens, Marcus said. You apologize to Miss Jenny. Real apology. Loud enough for everyone to hear. I don't apologize to... Marcus took 1 step forward. Just 1. But everything in that step, the weight, the certainty, the absolute conviction made Braden take 3 steps back. Let me tell you about my mother, Marcus said. His voice dropped lower. She was a waitress. 42 years old, worked herself to death at a place just like this. One day, some businessman guy in an expensive suit, probably a lot like your daddy, decided she wasn't moving fast enough. Yelled at her in front of everyone, called her stupid, lazy, worthless. He paused. The diner had become a church, and his words were the sermon. She came home that day and cried for 3 hours. I was 12. Couldn't do a damn thing about it. I watched my mother, strongest woman I ever knew, break down because some rich asshole thought his money made him better than her. Marcus looked at Jenny. She still hadn't moved. Still had spit on her face. Still standing. I swore that day, Marcus continued, that I'd never let it happen again. Not where I could stop it, not where I could stand up. He turned back to Braden. So you're gonna apologize, and you're gonna mean it, or we can do this the other way. What other way? Braden's voice cracked. Tommy held up his phone. Your friend there filmed everything, the disrespect, the spit, all of it. Be a real shame if that ended up online. Yale application committee might have questions. Your daddy's re-election campaign might have problems. Braden went pale. You wouldn't try us, Sarah said. The kid looked around. No friends, no father, no phone saving him. Just 10 bikers and a diner full of witnesses, and the consequences of his choices finally coming due. I'm sorry, he mumbled. Louder, Marcus said. I'm sorry. Look at her when you say it. Braden turned to Jenny, really looked at her for the first time, saw the tears, the exhaustion, the dignity she'd maintained despite everything. I'm sorry, he said again. I was... His voice broke. Not from remorse. Not yet. From fear. But fear was a start. That's not enough, Marcus said. Words are cheap. You need to understand what you did. Really understand. I said, I'm sorry. What more do you... You're working here. 3 days. Full shifts. The diner gasped. Jenny gasped. What? Braden's eyes went wild. You heard me. You show up tomorrow at 6 a.m. You put on an apron, you take orders, you serve food, you get to stand where Miss Jenny stands and see what it feels like to be treated the way you treated her. You can't make me... You're right, I can't. Marcus crossed his arms. But that video exists. And small towns talk. And Yale admissions offices have email addresses. So you can work 3 days, or you can spend the next year explaining to everyone why there's video of you spitting on a single mother. The math was brutal and simple. Braden's shoulders dropped. Fine. Fine what? I'll do it. Good. Marcus turned to Gerald, who'd been hiding behind the register. He shows up late, you call me. He disrespects anyone, you call me. He quits early, you call me. Understood? Gerald nodded so hard his jowls shook. Marcus looked back at Braden. 6 a.m. tomorrow. Don't be late. The bikers stepped aside, making a path to the door. Braden walked through it like a man walking to his own execution. The BMW roared to life and disappeared. The diner exploded into conversation. Marcus turned to Jenny. You okay? She finally wiped her cheek. Her hand was shaking. Why did you do that? Because somebody had to. You don't even know me. I know enough. He pulled out his wallet, took out $200 bills, set them on the counter. That's not charity. That's 6 years of tips we should have given you. We've been eating your cooking, drinking your coffee, taking up your tables. We owed you better. Sarah stepped forward, added another 100. For your boy's medicine. Then Tommy. Then Jackson. Then Bear. Then Ghost. Then Chains. Then Doc. Then Ratchet. Then Smoke. By the time all 10 bikers had contributed, there was $2,180 on the counter. Jenny stared at it like it might vanish. I can't. You can, Sarah said firmly. Medicine, car repair, new shoes, whatever you need. Why? The word came out broken. Marcus looked at table 9, at the booth where they'd sat every Tuesday for 6 years. where they'd watch Jenny serve with grace and kindness despite everything. "Because we take care of our own," he said, "and you're one of ours now." Jenny's hands went to her mouth. Tears came, real ones this time, not from humiliation, from being seen, from mattering. "Thank you," she whispered. The bikers filed out. Their motorcycles started in sequence, a rolling thunder that shook the windows and rattled the coffee cups, and announced that something fundamental had shifted in the small town of Mountain View, Montana. They rode off into the morning, and the diner felt different somehow. Bigger, cleaner, like fresh air had replaced something toxic. Jenny stood at the counter looking at the money, at her reflection in the chrome napkin dispenser. She picked up the bills carefully, counted them twice, folded them, put them in her apron pocket with trembling hands. Then she went back to work, because that's what she did. But she walked taller now. Her smile came easier. When she refilled coffee, people thanked her by name. When she brought out food, they looked her in the eye. At 7:15, she took her break, called Miguel's doctor. "I'd like to schedule that follow-up," she said, "and I'll pay for the real antibiotics today, the ones you recommended." "Wonderful, Mrs. Martinez. We can get him in tomorrow at... I'll make it work, whatever time you have." When she hung up, she pressed her palms to her eyes, not to stop tears, to let them come clean instead of cutting. The morning shifted into afternoon. More customers came. Word was spreading. Small towns move information faster than wildfire. People knew something had happened. They looked at Jenny different, talked to her different, respected her different. At 2:00 p.m., she finished her shift. Gerald tried to talk to her. "Jenny, about earlier, I want you to know..." She just looked at him, didn't say a word, just looked. He stopped talking. She walked home, 40 minutes in shoes with cardboard soles, but her feet didn't hurt as much. Miguel was awake when she got there, sitting up reading. "Hey, Mama." "Hey, baby." She sat on his bed. "Doctor tomorrow. Real medicine." His eyes went wide. "We can afford it." "Yeah," she smiled. "We can afford it." "How?" She thought about Marcus, about the bikers, about 10 strangers who saw her when everyone else looked away. "Some people," she said carefully, "are just good." That night she counted the money 3 times, divided it carefully. Medicine, car repair, new shoes, real ones, rent, groceries. Might even have enough left for the soup Miguel liked, the good kind. She lay in bed and didn't fall asleep for a long time, not because she was worried, but because for the first time in years, she wasn't. The money would run out eventually. Money always does. But something had happened that morning that couldn't be measured in dollars. She'd been seen, defended, valued. And tomorrow, Braden Whitmore would show up in an apron and learn what that felt like from the other side. She smiled in the dark. Outside somewhere in Montana, 10 motorcycles sat in 10 different driveways. And in each one, a biker slept, knowing they'd done the right thing. Not because it was easy, not because they were heroes, but because somebody had to stand up. And sometimes, that's all it takes to change everything. Braden Whitmore didn't sleep that night. He lay in his bed, California king sheets that cost more than Jenny's monthly rent, staring at the ceiling and replaying the moment his father hung up on him. "Handle it yourself." Those 3 words burned worse than the humiliation at the diner. At 5:30 a.m., his alarm went off. He turned it off and stared at his phone. He could just not go. What were they going to do? Those bikers had no real power. His father had lawyers, connections, money that made problems disappear. But then he remembered the video. His friend Jake had it, and Jake's loyalty only extended as far as Braden's social status did. What Braden didn't know was that Jake had already sent the video to 6 other people, and what none of them knew was that by noon it would be everywhere. He got dressed slowly. Jeans, not designer, plain shirt. His mother knocked on his door at 5:45. "Braden, are you really going?" "I don't have a choice." She opened the door. Victoria Whitmore stood there, in her silk robe, coffee in hand, looking at her son like he was a stranger. "Your father said..." "I know what Dad said." Braden grabbed his keys. He made it pretty clear he's done protecting me. He's not done. He hung up on me, Mom, in front of everyone. Do you know how that felt? She set her coffee down. Do you know how that waitress felt when you spit on her? The question landed like a slap. Braden had no answer. What he didn't realize was that his mother had been a waitress once before she met Robert Whitmore, before the money and the mansion and the carefully constructed life that erased her past. She'd never told Braden. She was about to wish she had. He drove to the diner in silence. The BMW felt too big, too obvious, too much like everything he was about to lose. He parked in the back, hoping nobody would see it. Too late. Tommy was leaning against his motorcycle, smoking a cigarette. On time, Tommy said. Didn't think you'd show. I'm here. That's not the same as showing up. Come on. Inside the diner was already filling up. Early crowd construction workers, nurses finishing night shifts, retirees drinking coffee and reading newspapers. They all looked up when Braden walked in. The whispers started immediately. That's him. Senator's kid. Heard he spit on Jenny. Gerald appeared from the back holding an apron like it might bite him. You're here. Yeah. Okay. So, Jenny's gonna train you. You do what she says. Everything she says. Understood. Braden nodded. What he didn't understand was that the next 8 hours would break him in ways he couldn't imagine. Jenny came out of the kitchen. She'd been there since 5:00 a.m. prepping for the breakfast rush. When she saw Braden, her face went carefully neutral. Morning, she said. Morning. You ever worked food service before? No. Ever had a job before? The question hung there. They both knew the answer. No, Braden said quietly. Okay. Jenny handed him the apron. Put this on. Tie it tight. It'll get heavy once you start loading your pockets with order pads and pens and all the stuff you need. He put it on. The apron felt like a costume, like he was pretending to be something he wasn't. Little did he know he was about to discover what he actually was. First rule, Jenny said, the customer is not always right, but you treat them like they are anyway, because you need their tips more than you need to be right. I don't need tips. She looked at him, really looked at him. No, she agreed. You don't, but I do, and Maria does, and every other person working here does. So when you mess up today, and you will, it affects all of us. Understood? Yeah. Say yes, ma'am. His face flushed. Yes, ma'am. Good. Let's go. She led him through the basics. How to carry plates 3 at a time if you're good, 2 if you're not. How to pour coffee without spilling. How to write orders fast because people get impatient. How to smile when your feet are screaming and your back hurts and someone's being rude because that's the job and nobody cares about your pain. At 6:30, the breakfast rush hit. Table 4 needs water, Jenny said. Go. Braden grabbed a pitcher, walked over. The man at table 4 was mid-50s, wearing work boots and a flannel shirt. Water, sir. The man looked up, recognized him immediately. You're the kid who spit on Jenny. Every conversation in the diner stopped. Yes, Braden said. I'm sorry about... You should be. The man pushed his water glass forward. Pour! Braden poured. His hand shook. Water sloshed onto the table. Wipe that up, the man said. I'll get a... Now. Braden used his apron. The man watched him with eyes that had seen too much disrespect in one lifetime and weren't going to let any more slide. Thank you, Braden whispered. Didn't hear you. Thank you, sir. Better. What Braden didn't know was that this man, Frank Morrison, had been married to a waitress for 30 years before cancer took her. And Frank remembered every person who'd ever treated his wife like she was less than human. Braden went back to the counter. His face was red. His hands were shaking. You okay? Jenny asked. Everyone here hates me. Yeah, she said simply. They do. How do you... He stopped, started again. How do you do this every day? Because I have to. You're doing it for 3 days. I'm doing it for life. There's a difference. She handed him an order pad. Table 7, couple in the corner, take their order. He walked over. The couple looked up, woman in her 60s, man about the same age. They'd been holding hands across the table. Morning, folks, what can I... You're Robert Whitmore's boy, the woman said. Yes, ma'am. Your father voted against the health care bill, the one that would have covered my husband's medication. Braden had no idea what she was talking about. He'd never paid attention to his father's votes. I don't... Of course you don't. She picked up her menu. I'll have the special. Eggs over easy. He'll have the same. Yes, ma'am. And son, she looked at him, you're paying for our meal, out of your own pocket. I can't. You can. You're worth what few million when you turn 21. We're worth this meal. Pay it. He nodded, took their order, walked back to the counter on legs that felt like water. What he didn't realize was that this was just the beginning. At 7:15, he dropped a plate. It shattered on the floor, glass and eggs and hash browns everywhere. The diner went silent. Then someone clapped, slowly, mocking. Clean it up, rich boy. Braden got on his hands and knees and picked up the pieces. His jeans got dirty, his hands got cut. Nobody helped. Jenny appeared with a mop. You're bleeding. I'm fine. No, you're not. Come here. She led him to the back, cleaned his cuts with peroxide that stung like hellfire, wrapped them in bandages. Why are you helping me? He asked. Because that's what people do, she said. They help, even when it hurts, even when the person doesn't deserve it. She went back to work, left him standing there, hands bandaged, pride in pieces on the floor with the broken plate. But the morning wasn't done with him yet, not by a long shot. At 8:00 a.m., a woman walked in, mid-40s, professional, closed tablet in hand. Braden didn't recognize her. Gerald did. That's Christine Park, Gerald whispered, panicked. Food critic. She reviews restaurants for the regional magazine. If she writes about this place, I'll handle her, Jenny said. No, send the kid. Jenny turned. Gerald, that's not... He's working here, isn't he? Let him work. What Gerald didn't know was that Christine Park had already heard about yesterday's incident, and she wasn't here for the food. Braden walked over. Good morning. Table for one. Christine looked up at him. Her eyes were sharp, calculating. You're Braden Whitmore. Yes, ma'am. I saw the video. His stomach dropped. What video? The one of you spitting on your waitress. It's on Twitter. 15,000 views so far. By tonight, it'll be 100,000. The floor tilted under him. It's online. Everywhere. She sat down. Coffee? Black. And I want to talk to Jenny Martinez. Braden brought coffee with shaking hands, then got Jenny. Miss Martinez. Christine stood, offered her hand. I'm Christine Park. I write for Mountain State Magazine. I'd like to interview you. I don't. Jenny glanced at Gerald. I'm working. I'll pay for your time. $500 for 30 minutes. Jenny's eyes widened. $500. That was 2 weeks of groceries. Miguel's medicine refill. The gas bill. Okay, she said. My break's at 8:30. What Jenny didn't know was that this interview would change everything. Again. While they waited, Braden kept working. More orders, more coffee, more people recognizing him and making sure he knew exactly how they felt about what he'd done. At 8:30, Jenny sat down with Christine in a booth. Braden watched from behind the counter, pretending to wipe it clean. How long have you worked here? Christine asked. 6 years. And yesterday what happened? Jenny's hands folded on the table. A customer was disrespectful. It happens. He spit on you. Yes. How did that feel? Jenny was quiet for a long moment. Like I didn't matter. Like I was so far beneath him that he could do that and nothing would happen. Like all the years I've worked here, all the times I've smiled through insults and cleaned up messes and served people who look through me like I'm invisible, like it all proved he was right. Her voice cracked. Like maybe I am invisible. Christine wrote quickly. But something did happen. The Devil's Advocates MC stood up for you. They did. Why do you think they did that? Because... Jenny stopped. Thought. Because they see people. Really see them. Marcus told me his mother was a waitress. He knows what it's like. And the boy, Christine glanced at Braden, he's working here now. For 3 days, Marcus's idea. Do you think 3 days is enough? I don't know, Jenny said honestly. I don't know if 3 years would be enough. You can't teach empathy in 72 hours. Either you have it or you don't. Do you think he has it? Jenny looked at Braden. He was taking an order from an elderly couple, and the woman was yelling at him because he'd forgotten to bring extra napkins. I think, Jenny said slowly, he's learning what it costs to be human, whether he can afford the price that's up to him. What neither of them knew was that Braden's father had just seen the video, and Senator Robert Whitmore was on his way to the diner right now, driving 90 miles an hour with his campaign manager, calling every 5 minutes asking how to handle the PR disaster. The interview ended. Christine paid Jenny in cash 5 crisp $100 bills. Jenny stared at them like they might disappear. Use it well, Christine said. And Miss Martinez, you matter. Don't let anyone tell you different. She left. Jenny went back to work, the money folded carefully in her apron pocket next to yesterday's $2,000. Braden watched her move between tables. She was limping slightly. Her feet hurt obviously, but she never stopped smiling, never stopped being kind, even to people who didn't deserve it, even to him. At 9:45, the door opened. Senator Robert Whitmore walked in. The diner went silent. He was tall, silver-haired, wearing a suit that cost more than Gerald paid in rent. His face was carved from stone and fury. Braden, he said, not loud, didn't have to be loud. Outside, now. Braden took off his apron, started toward the door. No, Marcus said. Everyone turned. Marcus was sitting at table 9 with Tommy and Sarah. He'd been there all morning watching, waiting. Excuse me, Senator Whitmore's voice could freeze water. Your boy's working his shift. He walks out now, he doesn't come back. And that video, the one with 15,000 views and counting, becomes tomorrow's news cycle. The senator's jaw tightened. You're threatening me. Stating facts. Your son made a choice. Now he's living with it. You can either help him learn something, or you can drag him out of here and prove that money really does mean never having to face consequences. Your call. Father and son stared at each other across the diner. You did this? Robert asked Braden. The video's real. Dad, I can explain. Did you spit on that woman? Silence. Answer me, Braden. Yes. The word fell like an axe. Robert's face didn't change, but something behind his eyes died. Where is she? Jenny raised her hand slowly. I'm Jenny Martinez, Senator. He walked over, stood in front of her. The most powerful man in Montana standing in front of a waitress. I apologize, he said, for my son, for not raising him better, for... His voice caught. Actually caught. I don't know what happened, he continued. I don't know where I went wrong, but I'm sorry. Truly. Jenny looked at him, saw the exhaustion, the shame, the desperate recognition that his son had become something he didn't recognize. He's learning, she said quietly. That's more than most people do. Robert nodded, turned to Braden. You finish your shift, all 3 days, and when you're done, we're going to talk about who you are and who you're going to be, because right now, I don't know. He left. The door closed behind him. The diner stayed silent for 10 seconds. Then conversation resumed, quieter now, heavier with meaning. Braden stood there, his father's words echoing in his head. Right now, I don't know. What he didn't realize was that he didn't know either, and the not knowing was more terrifying than anything else. Jenny touched his shoulder. Your break. Take 15 minutes. He went outside, sat on the curb, put his head in his hands. Tommy came out, lit a cigarette. You okay, kid? No. Good. You shouldn't be. Tommy exhaled smoke. You know why Marcus made you do this? To punish me. To teach you. There's a difference. Tommy sat down beside him. You think you're special because your daddy's got money, but in there, he pointed at the diner. Nobody cares. They care if you show up, if you work hard, if you treat people right. That's it. That's the whole game. I don't know how to do that. Then learn. You got 2 more days. Tommy went back inside. Braden sat there for 14 minutes. Then he stood up, wiped his face, and went back to work. Because somewhere between the broken plate and his father's disappointment and Jenny's kindness, he didn't deserve something had cracked open inside him. Not healed, not fixed, but cracked. And through the crack, light was starting to get in. The lunch rush hit at 11 hours, harder than breakfast, faster, meaner. People who'd heard about the video specifically came to see the senator's son serving them food. Some were kind. Most weren't. Extra ketchup. No more than that. More. Did I stutter? This coffee's cold. Make it again. You forgot my toast. What kind of idiot forgets toast? Every order, every complaint, every small cruelty he'd watched other people endure without thinking about it. Now he understood. By 1:00 p.m., his feet hurt so bad he wanted to cry. His back ached. His hands were raw. He'd spilled 2 more drinks, forgotten 3 orders, and got yelled at by Gerald twice. Jenny appeared beside him. Drink this. She handed him water. He drank it like he'd been lost in a desert. How do you do this? He asked again. 1 table at a time. 1 customer at a time. 1 day at a time. She paused. And I remember why I'm doing it. For Miguel. For our home. For our life. What are you doing it for? He had no answer, but he was starting to think maybe he needed to find one. At 2:00 p.m. his shift ended. He took off the apron. His shirt was stained with coffee and grease. His jeans were ruined. His hands were shaking. Gerald counted out his tips. $43. That's it. Braden stared at the money. That's it, Gerald said. Welcome to the working class. Braden took the money. $43 for 8 hours of work. Jenny made that in half a shift on a good day, and she'd been doing it for 6 years. He walked out to his car. The BMW sat there, black, expensive, mocking. He got in and just sat there, hands on the wheel, going nowhere. His phone buzzed. Text from his mother. Your father's campaign manager wants to do damage control. Photo op at the diner. You serving food, looking humble. They think it'll help. Braden stared at the message, thought about Jenny, about Marcus, about Tommy saying, you think you're special because your daddy's got money. He texted back, no, just that. No. His mother called immediately. Braden, this could save your father's campaign. I don't care about his campaign. You don't mean that. I do. I'm not turning this into a PR stunt. I messed up. I'm fixing it. That's it. He hung up, turned off his phone. What he didn't know was that Christine Park's article would go live tonight, and by tomorrow morning, everything would change again. He drove home. His mother was waiting in the kitchen. 3 days, she said. Then what? I don't know. Your father's disappointed in you. I know. I'm disappointed in you. That hurt worse. I know, Mom. She poured herself wine. When I was 19, I was a waitress. Did you know that? Braden looked up. What? Before I met your father, I worked at a diner in Billings, place called Ruby's. I worked there for 2 years. Saved every penny for college. You never told me that. Because your father wanted that part of my life erased. Thought it looked bad for his image. So I let it go, let myself forget. She sipped her wine. But I never forgot the day some man doctor I think told me I was too stupid to get his order right. He said it in front of everyone, and nobody stood up. Nobody said a word. Her hand was shaking. I went home that night and cried, just like that woman Jenny probably wanted to cry. She didn't cry, Braden said quietly. Not until after, when the bikers gave her money. Then she cried. Victoria looked at her son, really looked at him. You're going back tomorrow? Yeah. Good. She set down her wine. Maybe you'll learn something I had to forget. She left him alone in the kitchen. He sat there until dark, thinking about the day, about the broken plate and his father's face, and the $43 in his pocket that suddenly felt heavier than anything he'd ever earned. Because he hadn't earned it. Not really. He'd just survived. But survival, he was learning, was its own kind of lesson. And tomorrow the lesson would continue. Braden woke up at 4:45 a.m. to his phone exploding with notifications. He turned it back on to set his alarm and immediately regretted it. 53 text messages, 22 missed calls. His Twitter mentions had gone from manageable to nuclear. The article had dropped at midnight. Senator's son learns humility one plate at a time inside the viral video that's reshaping Montana politics. Christine Park hadn't held back. She detailed everything: the spit, the bikers, the forced apology, the 3-day sentence. But she'd also done something Braden hadn't expected. She'd interviewed other people he didn't know existed. Marcus Stone's quote hit him first. "We don't want to destroy this kid. We want him to understand that respect isn't given based on bank accounts. It's earned through how you treat people when nobody's forcing you to be decent." Then Jenny's, "I hope he learned something. Not for me, for himself. Because living your whole life thinking you're better than other people, that's not living. That's just existing in a very expensive prison." But the comment that made him put his phone down and stare at the ceiling came from his own mother. Victoria Whitmore had talked to Christine, without telling him, without asking permission. "I was a waitress once," she'd said in the article. "My son didn't know that. I erased that part of my life to fit into the world my husband built. But watching Braden go through this, it's making me remember who I was before I decided shame was an acceptable price for comfort. Maybe we both needed to learn this lesson." Braden got dressed slowly. His body hurt everywhere. Muscles he didn't know existed were screaming. His feet had blisters. His hands were still raw from yesterday's broken plate. But he showed up at 5:55 a.m. anyway. What he didn't know was that the diner's parking lot would be packed with news vans. He pulled in and counted 5 different camera crews. A reporter saw him immediately. Braden Whitmore. "How does it feel to—" He kept walking, head down, straight to the door. Tommy was standing guard like a bouncer. "Morning, kid. What's happening? You're famous. Viral famous. The bad kind." Tommy blocked a cameraman trying to follow Braden inside. "Diner's closed to press. You want coffee? Fine. You want a story? Leave." Inside the diner was chaos. Every booth was full. Standing room only. People were waiting outside despite the cameras. Gerald was sweating behind the register, trying to manage 3 times his normal morning crowd. Jenny saw Braden and waved him over. "Tie this on fast. We're drowning." He put on the apron. His hands were shaking. "Why are all these people here?" "Because of you. Half of them want to see if you're really working. Other half want to support me. Either way, we need to move." She handed him an order pad. "Tables 12 through 15. Go." What nobody had told him was that table 13 held 3 Yale alumni who'd driven 2 hours specifically to see if the video was real. He walked over. "Good morning. What can You're him," the woman in the Yale sweatshirt said. "The kid from the video." "Yes, ma'am." "Do you know how many strings your father pulled to get you into Yale?" His face went hot. I earned my admission," she laughed. "Not mean, just factual. Nobody earns anything when their daddy donates $3 million to the alumni fund. You got in because your last name opens doors. The question is, what are you going to do now that everyone knows it?" The 2 men with her nodded. One pulled out his phone. "We're on the alumni board. We're recommending they review your admission. Just thought you should know." They stood up, left, didn't order anything. Braden stood there, order pad in hand, watching his future crack open. "You okay?" Jenny appeared beside him. "They're taking away Yale. Maybe you never really had it." She wasn't being cruel, just honest. "Come on, table 14 needs coffee." He poured coffee for an hour straight. His hands stopped shaking, eventually replaced by a numb efficiency that came from having no other choice. The crowd kept growing. Gerald had to turn people away. The camera crews stayed outside, filming through the windows. At 7:30, Senator Whitmore arrived. Again. But this time he wasn't alone. His campaign manager, a sharp woman named Patricia Reeves, walked in with him, followed by two staffers with tablets and worried faces. "We need to talk," Patricia said to Gerald. "Now." They disappeared into the back office. Braden kept working, but he could hear raised voices. Patricia's cut through the noise. "This is a disaster." His approval rating dropped 6 points overnight. 6 points. "We need damage control, and we need it now." "What do you want from me?" Gerald sounded terrified. "A press conference. Here. Today. The senator, the boy, the waitress. Reconciliation. Forgiveness. A teaching moment. We spin this into family values and second chances." "I don't think Jenny will do what's best for everyone, including herself. We'll make a donation. 20,000 to her, another 20 to the diner. Everybody wins." What Patricia didn't know was that Jenny was standing right outside the office door, listening to every word. And what Patricia really didn't know was that Jenny Martinez hadn't survived 6 years of serving people who treated her like furniture by being someone who could be bought. Jenny walked into the office. "No," Patricia looked up surprised. "Excuse me." "No press conference, no photo op, no donation. This isn't for sale." "Miss Martinez, I understand you're upset, but I'm not upset. I'm done being used. You want to fix the senator's poll numbers. That's not my problem. You want to teach Braden something? Let him finish his 3 days without turning it into a campaign ad." Senator Whitmore stood up. "Jenny, Miss Martinez, I'm trying to do right by my son." "Then let him fail. Let him learn. Stop protecting him from consequences." She looked at Braden through the doorway. He was refilling coffee, pretending not to listen. "He's starting to understand something. You do this press conference, you erase all of it." Patricia opened her mouth. Robert held up a hand. "She's right," he said quietly. "Sir, we can't just—" "She's right." He looked at Jenny. "Thank you for being more honest than anyone on my staff has been in 10 years. He walked out. Patricia and the staffers scrambled after him, already on their phones, already spinning a new strategy. Jenny went back to work. Braden intercepted her at the coffee station. "You just cost yourself $40,000. "I know." "Why?" She looked at him. "Because some things matter more than money. You'll figure that out eventually, or you won't." She walked away, and Braden stood there holding a coffee pot, wondering when he'd stopped understanding how the world actually worked. But the morning wasn't done teaching him lessons. At 9:00 a.m., a man walked in. Late 60s, wearing a Vietnam veteran's cap and a jacket with patches from places Braden couldn't pronounce. He sat at the counter. Marcus saw him first. "Jimmy, didn't know you were back in town. Got in last night. Heard about the excitement." Jimmy looked at Braden. "You the kid?" "Yes, sir." "Come here." Braden walked over. Jimmy studied him like he was reading a foreign language. "You know what I learned in Vietnam?" Jimmy asked. "No, sir." "That rank doesn't mean shit when the bullets start flying. Officer private doesn't matter. What matters is who you are when everything's falling apart. Who you are when nobody's watching. Who you are when being good cost you something." He tapped the counter. "You're learning that now. Late, but you're learning. Don't waste it." "I won't, sir. We'll see." Jimmy ordered coffee and eggs. Didn't tip when he left, but he shook Braden's hand, and somehow that felt more valuable than the $43 he'd made yesterday. What Braden didn't realize was that Jimmy had served with Marcus's father, and that Jimmy had driven 3 hours specifically to see if the senator's son was worth saving. The verdict was still out. At 10:30, Miguel Martinez walked into the diner. Jenny saw him, and her face went pale. "Baby, you're supposed to be home." "Mrs. Chen said I could come see you." He was wearing his backpack, looking healthier than he had in weeks. The real antibiotics were working. "I wanted to see where you work." "Miguel, this isn't—" She glanced around. The diner was still packed, cameras still outside. "This isn't a good day." "Is that him?" Miguel pointed at Braden. "The boy who spit on you." Every conversation stopped. Again, the diner held its collective breath. "Yes," Jenny said quietly. Miguel walked over to Braden. 12 years old, barely 5 feet tall, looking up at a teenager who had everything Miguel would never have. "Why did you do it?" Miguel asked. Braden knelt down so they were eye level. "Because I was stupid and mean, and I didn't think about how it would make your mom feel." "Did you think about how it would make me feel?" The question hit like a bullet. "No, I didn't." When kids at school are mean to their moms, I always wonder what's wrong with them. Now I'm wondering what's wrong with you. Out of the mouths of children come truths adults spend lifetimes avoiding. "I don't know," Braden said honestly. "I'm trying to figure that out." Miguel studied him. "My mom says people can change if they want to. Do you want to?" "Yes." "Prove it." Miguel walked back to his mother. Jenny hugged him, whispered something in his ear. He nodded, sat at the counter, and did his homework while she worked. And Braden went back to serving tables with a 12-year-old's judgment hanging over him, heavier than anything his father or the Yale board or the entire internet could deliver. Because Miguel was right. Wanting to change wasn't enough. He had to prove it. But how do you prove you're different when everyone already knows who you were? The lunch rush hit harder than yesterday. More people, more cameras outside, more questions, more judgment. A woman at table 8 left him a penny as a tip with a note. "This is what you're worth." A man at table 6 asked for his autograph, then tore it up in front of him. "So my kids know what entitlement looks like." And someone else filmed him dropping a fork and posted it to TikTok with the caption, "Senator's son can't even hold silverware." Every small failure, every tiny mistake, magnified and broadcast and turned into proof that he was exactly what everyone already thought he was. By 12:30, he was ready to quit, ready to walk out, drive home, tell his father to use the lawyers and make it all go away. Then he saw Jenny. She was serving a table of construction workers who were being loud and demanding. One of them grabbed her wrist when she tried to walk away. "Hey, sweetheart, how about you spend less time with that rich kid and more time taking care of real customers?" "Sir, please let go. I asked you a question." Tommy was moving before Braden could blink, but Braden got there first. "Let her go." His voice came out steadier than he felt. The construction worker looked up. "This your girlfriend, rich boy?" "She's my co-worker. Let her go." "Or what?" Braden didn't have an answer. He wasn't tough, wasn't strong, wasn't anything except a 17-year-old kid who'd finally seen something he couldn't ignore. "Or I call the cops and explain how you assaulted a waitress in front of 30 witnesses," Tommy said, appearing behind Braden. "Your choice." The man let go. "Whatever, this place is trash anyway." He and his friends left. Jenny rubbed her wrist. "You okay?" Braden asked. "Yeah, happens sometimes." That shouldn't happen." "No," she agreed. "It shouldn't. But it does. Welcome to the job." She went back to work. Braden stood there, something shifting inside him. Not healed, not fixed, but definitely different than it had been 2 days ago. What he didn't know was that someone had filmed the whole interaction. And unlike the other videos, this one showed something different. This one showed the senator's son standing up for someone else. By 2:00 p.m., that video had 50,000 views. And the comments were changing. Maybe the kid's learning. Actions speak louder than words. Still doesn't excuse what he did, but at least he's trying. His shift ended at 2:30. Gerald counted out his tips. $67. Better than yesterday. "Tomorrow's your last day," Gerald said. "I know." "You coming back?" Braden looked around the diner. At Jenny serving coffee with a smile that cost her something every time. At Marcus and the bikers at table 9 watching over everything like protective angels in leather vests. At Miguel doing homework at the counter, occasionally looking over to make sure his mom was okay. "I don't know," Braden said. "Do you want me to?" Gerald was quiet for a long moment. "Ask me tomorrow, after you're done." "Fair enough." Braden walked out to his car. The news vans were gone, moved on to the next story. But there were still people in the parking lot, some supportive, some angry, all with opinions about who he was and who he should be. He got in the BMW and sat there. His phone buzzed. Text from his father. Come home. We need to talk. Not a request. A summons. He drove home expecting a fight. What he got was worse. His father was sitting in his study looking older than Braden had ever seen him. Patricia was gone. The staffers were gone. Just Robert Whitmore alone with a glass of scotch he wasn't drinking. Sit down, Robert said. Braden sat. I'm withdrawing from the race. The words took a moment to land. What? My campaign. I'm done. Announcing tomorrow. Robert finally took a sip of his drink. 12 years in the Senate. Gone because my son spit on a waitress. Dad, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Yes, you did. That's the problem. Robert looked at him. You meant every second of it. You thought it was okay. You thought she deserved it. And I'm realizing that's my fault. It's not. I gave you everything except the one thing that mattered. I gave you money and opportunity and access. But I never taught you that those things don't make you better than anyone else. They just make you luckier. And luck isn't character. Braden's throat tightened. You're quitting because of me. I'm quitting because I finally looked at my son and didn't recognize him. And then I looked at myself and realized I don't recognize me either. Somewhere along the way, we both forgot what matters. What does matter? Robert set down his glass. Ask that waitress. Ask those bikers. Ask your mother. They know. I forgot. He stood up. One more day at the diner. Finish what you started. Then we figure out what comes next. What does come next? I don't know, Braden. For the first time in 25 years, I have no idea, and maybe that's not the worst thing. He left Braden alone in the study. The house was silent, the kind of silence that comes when everything you thought was solid turns out to be built on sand. Braden sat there until his mother found him at 8:00 p.m. You heard? She asked. Yeah. She sat beside him. When I was 20, I dreamed about being a teacher. Did you know that? No. I wanted to teach kindergarten, help kids learn to read, make a difference. She smiled sadly. Then I met your father and all those dreams seemed small, silly. So I let them go. Became Mrs. Robert Whitmore instead of Victoria Chen, the girl from Billings who wanted to teach. Do you regret it? Every day, but I made my choice. You still have time to make different ones. She kissed his forehead. One more day. Finish it right. She left him there. Braden looked around the study, the expensive furniture, the books. Nobody read the awards for achievements that suddenly felt meaningless. He thought about Jenny's $43 apartment and Miguel's homework at the diner counter, and the way Marcus had stood up without hesitation, because some things are worth standing up for. He thought about tomorrow, his last day, his last chance to prove Miguel right or wrong. And somewhere between his father's resignation and his mother's regrets, and the weight of knowing that 2 more videos of him existed in the world, one showing the worst of who he'd been, one showing the beginning of who he might become. He made a decision. Tomorrow wouldn't just be about finishing his sentence. Tomorrow would be about choosing who he was going to be when nobody was forcing him anymore. Because the cameras would leave, the articles would fade, the viral moment would become old news, but the person he chose to be that would last forever. He went to bed at 9:00 p.m., set his alarm for 4:30 a.m., and for the first time in 3 days he fell asleep not because he was exhausted, but because he was ready. Ready to finish what he'd started. Ready to prove that change was possible. Ready to show that privileged kids from expensive homes could learn what mattered. One last shift. One last chance. One last opportunity to be someone worth recognizing in the mirror. Outside Montana, night settled over the town. The diner sat dark and quiet. Table 9 waited. The apron hung on its hook, and tomorrow morning everything would either come together or fall apart. The only question was which. Braden's alarm went off at 4:30 a.m., but he was already awake. He'd been staring at the ceiling for an hour, thinking about everything and nothing. His last day. His last chance to prove something, though he wasn't entirely sure what or to whom. He got dressed in the dark, jeans that were already stained from 2 days of work, a plain t-shirt. The designer clothes stayed in his closet untouched. They felt like costumes now, like he'd been playing a character his whole life and only just realized the script was wrong. His mother was in the kitchen when he came downstairs. 5:15 a.m. She was making coffee. Couldn't sleep either, she asked. No. She poured 2 cups, handed him one. They stood there in silence, drinking coffee in a kitchen that cost more than most people made in 5 years. Your father's press conference is at noon, she said finally, announcing his withdrawal. Will you be there? I don't know. Should I be? I think. Braden stopped. Started again. I think maybe it's time we all stopped pretending we know what we're supposed to do. Victoria looked at her son like she was seeing him for the first time. When did you get so smart? 3 days ago, around 6:47 a.m. She smiled, sad but real. Finish your shift, then come home. We'll figure out what comes next, together. He left at 5:35. The drive to the diner felt different somehow, like he was driving towards something instead of away from it. What he didn't expect was the crowd already forming in the parking lot at 5:50 a.m. Not reporters this time, just people, dozens of them, some holding signs, some holding coffee thermoses, all waiting. Tommy was at the door again. Morning, kid. Last day. What's with the crowd? Word got out. Some people want to support Jenny. Some want to see if you actually finish. Some just like drama. Tommy lit a cigarette. Montana's boring in October. You're the most exciting thing to happen since that moose wandered into the grocery store last spring. A moose? Yeah, she ate all the produce. They named her Gertrude. You might make page 2 after her. Despite everything, Braden smiled. Inside the diner was already busy. Gerald was panicking again because they'd run out of coffee filters, and the delivery truck wasn't coming until 8 a.m. We have 200 cups of coffee to serve and no filters. Gerald's voice climbed into registers, usually reserved for emergencies. Jenny appeared from the back. Use paper towels, double-layered. It'll work. Is that safe? Gerald, it's paper, not anthrax. We'll be fine. She saw Braden. Last day. You ready? I don't know. Good answer. Tie the apron on. We're short-staffed. Maria called in sick and Danny quit yesterday. Said the attention was too much. People quit because of me. People quit for lots of reasons. Stop making everything about you and start making coffee. We need 10 pots before the breakfast rush. He made coffee. 10 pots using double-layered paper towels as filters, and it actually worked. By 6:15, the diner was filling up. Regular customers mixed with new faces, people who'd driven from neighboring towns just to see the viral moment's aftermath. At 6:20, Marcus and the bikers arrived, all 10 of them. They took table 9 like always. Morning, Jenny, Marcus said. Morning, usual. Actually, Marcus looked at Braden. Let the kid take our order today. Every eye in the diner turned. This was a test. Everyone knew it. Braden walked over. Order pad ready. Hands steady or close enough. Morning, gentlemen, ma'am. He nodded to Sarah. Morning, Marcus said. Tell me something, kid. You learned anything these 3 days? Yes, sir. What? Braden thought about his scripted answer, the thing he'd prepared at 3:00 a.m. when sleep wouldn't come. Then he threw it away. I learned I don't know anything. I thought I did. Thought I understood how the world worked. Turns out I just understood how my world worked, and my world was small and stupid and mean. The diner was silent. That it? Marcus asked. No, sir. I learned that kindness is harder than being cruel. That showing up matters more than showing off. That my mother was a waitress, and I never knew because she was ashamed of it. And that shame, real shame, isn't about what you did for work. It's about how you treated people while you were doing it. Sarah's eyes were wet. Tommy nodded slowly. Marcus just watched him. What else? Marcus asked. I learned that Jenny Martinez is stronger than anyone I've ever met. That Miguel is smarter than me. That all of you are what I thought heroes were supposed to be before I learned heroes wear suits and make speeches. Turns out they wear leather vests and pay attention to people everyone else ignores. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. You sound like you memorized that. I did, at 3 a.m, but I meant every word. Fair enough. Marcus picked up his menu. Pancakes, stack of 5. And kid, yeah, you did good these 3 days. Not perfect, but good. That's all anyone can ask. Braden took the rest of their orders. His hands were shaking, but his writing was clear. When he walked back to the counter, Jenny was smiling. What? He asked. Nothing. Just, you didn't call him sir the last 2 times. Should I have? No. Means you're starting to see him as a person instead of someone above you. That's progress. What neither of them knew was that someone had recorded the entire exchange. And what nobody expected was how fast it would spread. By 7:00 a.m., that video had 20,000 views. By 8:00 a.m., it would hit 100,000. And by noon, when Senator Whitmore gave his press conference, the narrative would shift in ways nobody could predict. But for now, Braden just worked. The breakfast rush hit at 6:45, harder than ever. The crowd outside had grown to over 100 people. Some got seats, most didn't. Gerald was crying in the back office, literally crying from the stress of managing triple his normal capacity. I can't do this, he shouted at Jenny. I can't handle this many people. Then hire more staff, she said calmly. With what money? With the money you've been saving by understaffing this place for 6 years. Pay people fairly, Gerald. Stop acting like survival is optional. She walked out, leaving him speechless. What Gerald didn't know, what nobody knew yet, was that Marcus and the Devil's Advocates had been pooling money. Not for themselves, for Jenny. They'd raised $11,000 from their chapter and 3 allied clubs. They were planning to give it to her at the end of Braden's shift. But fate had other plans. At 8:30 a.m., a woman walked in. Late 50s, professional but tired. She looked around until she found Jenny. Miss Martinez? Yes. I'm Laura Whitmore, Braden's grandmother. The diner went silent. Braden was in the back, running more coffee. He didn't see her arrive. Didn't know she was there. Jenny wiped her hands on her apron. Ma'am, can I get you something? I came to apologize. For my grandson. For my son. For her voice cracked. For the family I helped create. Mrs. Whitmore, you don't need to. I do. Laura sat at the counter. My husband, Braden's grandfather, he taught Robert that money equals worth. That success means dominance. That kindness is weakness. I watched it happen. I said nothing. And now my grandson spit on you because that's what we taught him the world was. Tears ran down her face. Real ones. The kind that come from decades of regret. I worked as a nurse for 30 years, Laura continued. Double shifts, holidays, weekends. I know what it's like to serve people who look through you. And when Robert made his money, when we finally had enough, I let him erase that part of our lives. Let him pretend we'd always been wealthy. Let him teach Braden that we were special instead of lucky. Jenny handed her a napkin. Laura took it, wiped her eyes. I'm sorry, Laura whispered. I'm so sorry. Ma'am, you didn't spit on me. You don't owe me. I owe you everything, because you're teaching my grandson something I should have taught him 17 years ago. That people matter more than portfolios. That dignity isn't negotiable. That showing up is the only currency that actually counts. Braden emerged from the back with fresh coffee. Saw his grandmother. Froze. Grandma? Laura turned. Come here, sweetheart. He walked over slowly. She stood up, hugged him. He hadn't been hugged by his grandmother in years. Not real hugs anyway. Just polite gestures at holidays. This was different. I'm proud of you, she said. For what? For messing up so bad I went viral. For finishing what you started. For not running when it got hard. For standing here in this apron when you could be anywhere else. She pulled back, held his face. Your grandfather would hate this. He'd say you're embarrassing the family. That's how I know you're doing it right. She turned to Jenny. How much to buy his way out of today? Excuse me. His last shift. How much to let him go? Name your price. Jenny's face hardened. Mrs. Whitmore, I respect what you're trying to do. But he made a commitment. Money doesn't erase that. I'm not trying to erase it. I'm trying to... Laura stopped. Laughed. I'm doing it again. Trying to buy a solution instead of letting consequences teach the lesson. You're right. I'm sorry. She sat back down, ordered coffee and eggs, insisted on sitting at the counter where she could watch Braden work. What she didn't tell anyone was that she'd filed for divorce that morning. After 43 years of marriage, Laura Whitmore had finally decided that enabling cruelty even passively was its own kind of sin. At 9:15, disaster struck. The grease trap in the kitchen backed up. Raw sewage started seeping across the floor. The smell hit the dining room within seconds. "Everyone out," Gerald shouted. "Kitchen's closed. We're done for the day." "We can't close," Jenny said. "We have 100 people waiting outside. The health department will shut us down if they see this. We have to fix it," Marcus said, standing up. "How much to call a plumber?" 300. Emergency rates. But they can't get here until this afternoon." Tommy stood up. Bear used to be a plumber, before the accident. Bear stood up, all 6'5", 300 pounds of him. "I can fix it. Need tools, though." "I have tools in my truck," a customer called out. "Mechanic. Got a full kit." Another stood. "I'm a contractor. I can help." Within 5 minutes, 10 people, bikers, customers, strangers who'd come to watch the show were in the back, taking apart the grease trap running to hardware stores, fixing what Gerald had ignored for months because repairs cost money he didn't want to spend. Braden worked the dining room alone. Jenny was coordinating the repairs. Gerald was having what looked like a nervous breakdown in his office. Tables needed clearing. Coffee needed pouring. Orders needed taking. Braden did it all. He dropped a plate, his third one, in 3 days. It shattered. Nobody clapped this time. Someone just handed him a broom. He forgot an order. The customer, an older man who'd been waiting 20 minutes, stood up to leave. "Sir, wait. I'm sorry. I'll get it right now." "You're the senator's kid." "Yes, sir." "My daughter applied to Yale. Got rejected. Had a 4.0, volunteered at 3 shelters, taught herself Mandarin. Rejected, while you got in because your daddy donated money." Braden set down his order pad. "I know. That's not fair." "No, it's not. I can't fix that, but I can get your order right. What were you having?" The man studied him. "Western omelet, wheat toast, coffee." "Coming right up. And sir, your daughter sounds amazing. I hope she finds a school that deserves her." The man sat back down. "She did. University of Montana. Full scholarship. Starts next fall. Wants to be a doctor." "Then she's already ahead of me." What Braden didn't know was that this man, James Chen, was Victoria's brother, his estranged uncle who hadn't spoken to the family in 15 years because Robert had called his sister's past an embarrassment. James had come to the diner to see if his nephew was worth forgiving. The verdict was still forming. By 10:30, the grease trap was fixed. Bear emerged from the back covered in grease and sewage, grinning like he'd won the lottery. "Good as new. Better, actually. Gerald, you need to maintain this thing. It's been backing up for months." Gerald nodded weakly. He'd stopped trying to control anything hours ago. The kitchen reopened. Jenny and Braden worked side by side, cranking out orders for the crowd that had waited patiently through the crisis. "You did good today," Jenny said quietly. "I dropped a plate and forgot an order." "Yeah, and you owned it both times. That's the difference between day 1 and day 3. At 11:45, Braden's phone buzzed. Text from his father. "Press conference in 15 minutes. Wish me luck." He showed it to Jenny. She read it, handed the phone back. "You should be there." "I'm working." "Your shift ends at 2. That's 2 hours away. But your father's ending his career right now. Go." "I can't just leave you." "Yes, you can, Marcus." She called across the diner. "Can you spare someone to cover for Braden? He needs to leave." "Where's he going?" "To be with his father." Marcus understood immediately. "Tommy, cover his section." "I got it." Braden took off his apron. "I'm coming back. To finish." "I know," Jenny said. "Now go." He ran to his car. Drove 90 miles an hour to the Capitol building in Helena. Got there at 12:03. His father was already at the podium, cameras everywhere, reporters shouting questions. Braden pushed through the crowd. His mother saw him, waved him forward. He stood beside her behind his father as Robert Whitmore ended his political career. "I'm withdrawing from the Senate race," Robert said. "Not because of scandal, but because of failure. I failed as a father. I taught my son that power matters more than principle, that money can solve any problem, that people in service positions exist to serve us, not beside us." The reporters were silent. This wasn't a standard political speech. "My son did something unforgivable 3 days ago, but in trying to punish him, a group of bikers taught him something I never did. They taught him that respect is earned, not inherited, that dignity isn't a luxury, that showing up, really showing up for people, matters more than any legislation I've passed in 12 years. Robert's voice cracked. "I'm withdrawing because I need to learn the same lesson. I need to remember who I was before I decided that winning elections mattered more than raising a decent human being. I need to be the father my son deserved, not the politician Montana thought they wanted." He looked back at Braden. "I'm sorry, son. For everything." The press conference erupted. Questions flew. Cameras flashed. But Braden only heard one thing. "I'm sorry, son." His father had never apologized before. Not once. Not ever. Victoria squeezed Braden's hand. "We're going to be okay," she whispered. "Different, but okay." The press conference ended. The family left through a side door. Outside, reporters were already spinning narratives, crafting headlines, turning a moment of genuine vulnerability into tomorrow's news cycle. But in the car driving back to Mountain View, the Whitmore family was silent. Not uncomfortable, just quiet. Processing. Adjusting to a reality where money didn't fix things and power didn't protect them, and all they had left was each other. "I have to finish my shift," Braden said. "I know," Robert said. "We'll wait for you, all of us." "You don't have to." "Yes, we do." Victoria turned around from the front seat. "Your grandmother's still there. Your Uncle James showed up. Did you know that, my brother? After 15 years. He came because of you." "Why?" "Because you did something none of us could do. You admitted you were wrong. You faced consequences. You changed." She smiled. "That's more courage than this family's shown in 3 generations." They pulled into the diner parking lot at 1:45. 15 minutes left in Braden's shift. The crowd had grown even larger. News of Robert's press conference had spread. People wanted to see how the story ended. Braden walked back inside, put on the apron. Tommy handed him back his order pad. "How'd it go?" Tommy asked. "My dad quit the Senate." "Good. Politics were making him an asshole anyway." Braden laughed. Actually laughed. "Yeah, they were." He worked the last 15 minutes, took 3 orders, delivered 2 plates, poured coffee until his hands went numb. When the clock hit 2:00 p.m., Gerald called him over. "Your shift's done." "I know." Gerald struggled with words. "You did okay. Better than I expected." "Thanks, Gerald." Jenny appeared. "Come with me." She led him to table 9. Marcus and all the bikers were there. So was his grandmother, his Uncle James, his parents, Miguel. "We wanted to do something," Marcus said. "For you. But we realized you don't need anything from us." "I need a lot, actually," Braden said. "I need to learn how to be better, how to show up, how to matter." "Then here's what you do," Sarah said. "You come back. Not because you have to, because you want to. Come back. Work here. 1 shift a week, minimum wage, real work. Keep learning what your expensive education never taught you." Braden looked at Jenny. "Would you want that? Would you actually do it?" she asked. "Or is this just another moment that sounds good?" "I'll do it, every week, for as long as you'll have me." Jenny smiled. "Then yeah, I'd want that." Marcus stood up, shook Braden's hand. "You did good, kid. Not perfect, but good. And good is where change starts." The diner applauded. Not everyone, some people still hated him, still thought 3 days was nowhere near enough. But enough people clapped that it felt real. Gerald approached nervously. Jenny, about the money situation. I know I haven't been fair. No, you haven't, she said. But I'm done. Effective immediately. The diner went silent. You're quitting. Gerald's face went pale. I'm quitting you. But Marcus and the MC, they're helping me start my own place. A small diner on the east side. Real wages. Fair tips. No grease traps that haven't been maintained in 5 years. She turned to Braden. You're welcome to work there. When it opens in 6 months. If you're still interested. I am, he said immediately. Marcus grinned. We raised $11,000 from the clubs. Add that to what you've saved, plus a small business loan, you'll make it work. Jenny's eyes filled with tears. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just promise us one thing. What? Table 9. Reserved. Always. Deal. They hugged. All of them. Bikers and waitress and senator and grandmother and son. One moment of genuine connection in a world that usually kept people separated by class and money and the invisible walls everyone pretended didn't exist. Outside, the sun was setting over Montana. The crowd dispersed. The cameras left. The viral moment became history. But inside the diner, something had changed. Something fundamental. Something that couldn't be undone or forgotten or dismissed as temporary. Braden Whitmore had learned what it meant to be human. And in learning, he'd taught his family the same lesson. That night, the Whitmores sat together in their kitchen. Not the formal dining room. The kitchen. They ordered pizza, something they hadn't done in years, and ate it off paper plates. What now? Braden asked. Now we figure it out, Robert said. Together, without the Senate, without the pressure, just us. I think I want to go to community college, Braden said, instead of Yale. His parents looked at him. Are you sure? Victoria asked. Yeah, I'm sure. I don't deserve Yale. And honestly, I don't think I want it anymore. I want to learn. Really learn. Not just collect credentials. Robert nodded slowly. Okay, then that's what you'll do. They finished their pizza, cleaned up together. And for the first time in 17 years, the Whitmore house felt like a home instead of a museum. Braden went to bed at 10:00 p.m. His body hurt everywhere. His hands were permanently stained with coffee. His feet had blisters on top of blisters. But he was smiling, because tomorrow he'd wake up different. Not better yet, not fixed, but different. And different was where healing started. Outside Montana, night covered everything. The diner sat dark. Table 9 waited. And somewhere in town, Jenny Martinez counted her money and dreamed of a place where people mattered more than profit, where dignity was the price of admission, where everyone got Table 9 treatment. It would take 6 months to build, but it would be worth it. Because some things are worth waiting for, and some lessons take longer than 3 days, but they're the ones that last forever. 6 months passed like water through fingers fast, when you weren't paying attention, slow, when you counted the days. Braden kept his promise. Every Tuesday morning, 6:00 a.m., he showed up at the Mountain View Diner. Gerald had tried to fire him twice, once for disrupting the atmosphere, and once for reminding customers of that incident. But Jenny had quit by then, and the other staff threatened to walk if Braden left. Turned out people liked working with someone who'd been humbled. Turned out humility was contagious. He enrolled at Montana State Community College in January, business management and hospitality. His Yale acceptance had been officially revoked in November, the video, the scandal, the revelation about his father's donations. The letter came on a Tuesday. He was at the diner when he opened it. You okay? Jenny had asked. Yeah, he'd said and meant it. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Yet what he didn't know then was that by April, he'd be helping Jenny build something that would change everything again. Her diner, she'd named it Martinez's Table, was set to open on May 15th. The construction had taken longer than expected. Permits, inspections, surprise electrical issues that ate through her budget. But Marcus and the MC kept fundraising. The community kept showing up. And slowly, painfully, the building on East Pine Street transformed from abandoned hardware store to functioning restaurant. On May 10th, 5 days before opening, everything went wrong. Jenny got the call at 6:30 a.m. She was at the Mountain View Diner. She'd agreed to help Gerald through the breakfast rush one last time before her new place opened. "Miss Martinez." The voice was unfamiliar official. "This is Fire Marshal Davidson. We need you at your property immediately." Her stomach dropped. "What happened?" "Electrical fire. Started around 400 a.m. We got it contained, but there's significant damage." She was out the door before Gerald could protest. Braden followed. He'd been wiping tables, saw her face go white. "I'm driving," he said. They made it to East Pine Street in 8 minutes. The building was still standing, but smoke damage marked the walls like bruises. Fire trucks were packing up. The marshal met them at the door. "How bad?" Jenny asked. "Kitchen's destroyed. Wiring was older than we thought, couldn't handle the new equipment load. You're looking at 60,000–70,000 in repairs, maybe more." Jenny's legs gave out. She sat on the curb, head in her hands. What the fire marshal didn't tell her, what nobody knew yet, was that the electrical inspector who'd signed off on the wiring had been cutting corners for years. He'd be arrested within a week. But that wouldn't rebuild Jenny's kitchen. "I don't have $70,000, she whispered. Braden sat beside her. "Then we'll find it." "How I've already borrowed everything I can, used every penny from the MC fundraiser, took out a loan I can barely afford. There's nothing left." "There's always something left." He pulled out his phone, made a call. "Dad, I need your help. Not your money. Your connections." What happened next would prove that sometimes the people who hurt you become the ones who save you. Robert Whitmore had spent 6 months rebuilding his life. No Senate, no campaign, no political future. He'd taken a job teaching government at the University of Montana, adjunct professor, making a fraction of what he'd earned in politics. But he'd also started connecting with people again. Real people, not donors, not constituents, just humans. He made 7 phone calls that morning. By noon, he'd arranged for 3 local contractors to donate labor. By 2:00 p.m., he'd convinced a supplier to provide materials at cost. By 5:00 p.m., the Devil's Advocates MC had rallied 15 other clubs to help with demolition and reconstruction. "We can have you open in 3 weeks, Robert told Jenny. "Not 5 days, but 3 weeks, if everyone works." Jenny looked at this man, the father of the boy who'd spit on her, the senator who'd represented everything she'd never be, now standing in her burned-out kitchen, offering help he didn't have to give. "Why?" she asked. "Because my son learned something from you, and I'm trying to learn it too. That showing up matters, that people matter, that doing the right thing isn't about headlines. It's just about showing up." She nodded. Couldn't speak, just nodded. What nobody expected was who else would show up. By the next morning, the story had spread. Not because reporters picked it up, they'd moved on to newer scandals, but because small towns talk and good news travels faster than bad when people actually care. Victoria Whitmore arrived at 7:00 a.m. with coffee for everyone and a checkbook. "I'm not trying to buy anything," she told Jenny, "but I have money sitting in an account doing nothing. Let it do something good." She wrote a check for $20,000. Jenny tried to refuse. "It's not charity," Victoria said firmly. "It's an investment. I want 5% ownership in Martinez's table. I want to be part of something real for once in my life." "Deal." Jenny looked at the check, looked at Victoria, saw something familiar in her eyes, the exhaustion of pretending to be someone you're not. "Deal," Jenny said. "But you're working the grand opening, apron and everything." Victoria smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that." Gerald showed up at noon. Didn't say anything at first, just started helping tear out damaged drywall. After an hour, he approached Jenny. "I was a bad boss," he said. "I knew it. Did it anyway. Easier to underpay people than to admit I was barely making rent myself." "Gerald, let me finish." He wiped sweat from his face. "You deserved better. They all did. I'm closing the Mountain View Diner. Selling it. Whatever I get, half goes to you. For back wages I should have paid years ago." Jenny's eyes widened. "You're closing. Can't compete with you anyway. Not when you actually treat people right." He almost smiled. "Figure maybe I'll retire. Fish more. Stop being an asshole. It's never too late to stop being an asshole. Tommy said, walking past with a load of debris. Gerald laughed. Actually laughed. Yeah, guess not. What Gerald didn't say, what he'd never tell anyone, was that watching Jenny get spit on and him doing nothing had eaten at him for 6 months. Every night. Every morning. The shame of his cowardice had become unbearable. Closing the diner wasn't charity. It was penance. The construction became a community event. People showed up who'd never met Jenny. Contractors, teachers, students from Braden's community college. The story had touched something, the idea that dignity could be defended, that cruelty could be answered, that change was actually possible. Miguel came every day after school. Now 13 healthier than he'd been in years, he brought sandwiches for the workers and asked 1,000 questions about construction. "Can I work here when it opens?" he asked his mother. "You're 13. I'll be 14 in 3 months. That's legal working age with parental permission." I checked. Jenny hugged him. "You're supposed to be a kid. Play. Have fun." "I am having fun. I like this. Building something. Being part of something." What Miguel didn't know was that in 5 years he'd be managing Martinez's table while Jenny opened a second location. But that morning he was just a kid who wanted to help his mother's dream come true. Braden worked 18-hour days. Classes in the morning, construction until midnight. His hands developed new calluses on top of old ones. His back hurt permanently. His father asked if he was overdoing it. "Probably," Braden admitted. "But I owe her this." "You don't owe her anything. You served your 3 days." "I don't mean the debt from the spit. I mean the debt from watching her teach me how to be human. That debt doesn't have a time limit." Robert understood. He worked alongside his son, learning how to use tools he'd never touched, taking orders from contractors who'd voted against him, sleeping 4 hours a night, and feeling more alive than he had in 20 years. On May 28th, 2 weeks after the fire, Marcus walked through the rebuilt kitchen, tested the stoves, checked the electrical, ran water through every sink. "It's good," he announced. "Better than good. It's right." "We're opening June 1st, Jenny told the assembled workers. 50 people stood in the dining room, exhausted and paint-splattered and proud. "I can't pay most of you. Can't thank you enough. But you're all invited to the grand opening. And you all eat free for life." Someone started clapping. Then everyone. Not polite applause, real celebration. The kind that comes from building something together that matters more than money. What Jenny didn't say, what she was still processing, was that she'd gone from waitress with a broken car to restaurant owner with a community in 6 months. And none of it would have happened if a spoiled teenager hadn't spit in her face. Funny how life works sometimes. The grand opening was scheduled for Saturday, June 1st at 6:00 a.m. They'd fed the first 100 customers for free. Expected maybe 200 people total for the day. By 5:30 a.m., there were 500 people in line. By 6:00 a.m., the line stretched 3 blocks. News crews showed up, not because it was a slow news day, because Christine Park had written a follow-up article, From Viral Humiliation to Community Resurrection, how a Montana waitress built a dream on the ashes of cruelty. The article had gone more viral than the original video. 8 million views, shared by celebrities, politicians, everyday people who saw something in Jenny's story that resonated with their own struggles. But inside Martinez's table, Jenny wasn't thinking about viral moments or articles or fame. She was thinking about the pancakes burning on the stove because she'd forgotten to flip them. Jenny. Maria, her new cook formerly from Mountain View Diner, grabbed the spatula. "Breathe. I got this. There's too many people. We can. You hired good people. Trained us right. Now let us work." Jenny stepped back, watched her staff move through the kitchen like a choreographed dance, watched Braden take orders at table 9, the big booth she'd reserved for the devil's advocates now packed with bikers who'd made this possible. Watched Victoria Whitmore serve coffee with a smile that looked like freedom. Watched Miguel bus tables with the kind of pride that comes from seeing your mother succeed. Watched her dream become real. At 8:00 a.m., a commotion at the door. Secret Service agents entered first, followed by Governor Linda Hayes. The restaurant went silent. "Miss Martinez," Governor Hayes approached. "I wanted to congratulate you personally. and to offer something. She handed Jenny an envelope. Inside was a formal letter. "I'm proposing new state legislation," the governor said. "Mandatory dignity training for all food service positions, fair wage requirements, protection from harassment. We're calling it the Martinez Act." Jenny read the letter twice. "You're naming it after me. You started something here. Showed us that respect isn't negotiable, that defending someone's dignity isn't radical, it's required. We want to make that law." The restaurant erupted in applause. Jenny couldn't speak, just held the letter like it might vanish. What Governor Hayes didn't say, what she'd tell Jenny later in private, was that she'd been a waitress too, 23 years ago before law school. And nobody had defended her when a customer threw hot coffee in her face because his eggs were cold. She'd carried that shame for 2 decades. Watching Jenny refuse to be ashamed had healed something the governor didn't know was broken. At noon, Senator Whitmore's replacement, newly elected Senator David Chen, Victoria's brother, arrived with his family. He waited in line like everyone else. When he finally got a table, he asked for Jenny. "My sister invested in this place," he said, "made me promise to support it. So here I am, customer number 417. And I'm telling everyone in Helena that Martinez's table is where I eat when I'm home." "Why?" Jenny asked. "Because family matters. And Vicky finally found hers. That means something." What David didn't say was that he'd spent 15 years refusing to speak to his sister because she'd married into wealth and pretended her past didn't exist. Her investment in Jenny's restaurant, her willingness to serve coffee in an apron on opening day, had convinced him that people could change. And if Victoria could change, maybe he could forgive. The day stretched into evening. They'd planned to close at 8:00 p.m. At 7:45, there were still people waiting. Jenny made the call. "We stay open until the line's gone. Everyone who waited deserves to eat." They served the last customer at 11:30 p.m., a young woman college-aged wearing a university sweatshirt. "I'm studying hospitality management," she told Jenny. "My professor made us watch your story. Said it's required viewing for anyone who wants to work with people. Said dignity is the foundation of service. Your professor's right. I want to work here. When I graduate, I want to learn from you." Jenny handed her an application. "Fill this out. We're hiring." The girl left with the application clutched like a treasure. The staff cleaned up in exhausted silence. At midnight, Jenny locked the door. Marcus and the bikers were still there. Table 9, waiting. "How'd we do?" Jenny asked. $17,000 in revenue, Tommy said, checking the register. "First day. That's unheard of." "It's not sustainable," Sarah added. "Tomorrow will be slower. Reality sets in. But today was magic." Jenny sat at table 9. Let herself feel it. The exhaustion, the triumph, the impossible reality that she'd gone from victim to victor in half a year. "Thank you," she said to the bikers, "for all of it, for standing up, for showing up, for believing in something that seemed impossible." "We didn't do anything special," Marcus said. "We just refused to look away. That's all anyone has to do. See people, really see them. The rest takes care of itself." Braden emerged from the kitchen. He'd been washing dishes for 3 hours. His shirt was soaked, his hands pruned. "Last dish is clean," he announced. "Go home," Jenny told him. "You've been here 17 hours. So have you. It's my restaurant. And it's my—" He stopped, thought. "It's my second chance. That's worth 17 hours. What Braden didn't say was that he'd been accepted to the Cornell School of Hotel Administration for the following fall. Full scholarship not because of his father's money, but because his application essay about 3 days as a waiter had moved the admissions committee to tears. He hadn't decided if he'd go. Montana felt like home now, and Martinez's table felt like where he belonged. But that decision was for another day. Jenny sent everyone home at 1:00 a.m. Stood alone in her restaurant. Her restaurant. The words still felt foreign. She thought about 6 months ago, about the spit, about the humiliation, about wanting to disappear. She thought about Marcus standing up, about Braden learning, about her son getting medicine, about her car running again, about new shoes that didn't need cardboard inserts. She thought about Victoria finding herself, about Robert finding purpose, about Gerald finding shame that led to redemption, about Miguel finding pride. And she realized something profound. The worst moment of her life had become the catalyst for the best thing she'd ever built. Not because the humiliation was worth it, it wasn't. Cruelty is never worth it. But because enough people decided that looking away wasn't acceptable, that defending dignity was mandatory, that showing up mattered more than staying comfortable. She locked up at 1:30 a.m., drove home in her used Honda, not fancy, but reliable. Miguel was asleep when she got there. She kissed his forehead. "We did it, baby," she whispered. "We actually did it." The next morning, Sunday, she woke at 5:00 a.m. Habit. The restaurant didn't open until 7:00 on Sundays, but she needed to prep. Her phone had 67 messages, applications from aspiring workers, thank you notes from customers, interview requests from national media, and one from Braden. "I'm taking the Cornell scholarship, but I'm coming back. Every summer, every break, Martinez's table is part of who I am now. Thank you for teaching me that who I am matters more than what I have. See you Tuesday at 6:00 a.m. She smiled, replied, "Bring your apron. Table 9 will be waiting." Martinez's table became a Montana institution. Within a year, they'd opened a second location. Within 3, there were 5 across the state. Each one reserved Table 9 for the local motorcycle club. Each one paid fair wages. Each one operated on Jenny's principal dignity, first profit second. The Martinez Act passed the Montana legislature in November. Other states adopted similar laws. Within 5 years, hospitality workers across America had protections they'd never had before, all because a woman refused to accept that being spit on was just part of the job. All because 10 bikers refused to look away. All because a teenage boy learned that privilege isn't permanent and character isn't optional. All because a community decided that defending dignity was everyone's responsibility. Braden graduated from Cornell, came back to Montana, became Jenny's business partner. Eventually, her son-in-law, when he and Miguel's older sister, the one who'd been away at college during everything, fell in love. Robert never returned to politics. Taught for 15 years. Wrote a book about failure and redemption that became required reading in leadership courses. Victoria opened a nonprofit helping former service workers transition to ownership. Funded by her divorce settlement, Laura had left her wealthy too. Gerald sold the Mountain View Diner. Gave Jenny half like he'd promised. Spent his retirement volunteering at a food bank trying to give back what he'd taken. Miguel graduated high school with honors. Got a full ride to business school. Came back and managed Martinez's table while his mother expanded. Eventually took over completely when Jenny retired. And Marcus kept riding. Kept sitting at table 9 every Tuesday. Kept watching over people who needed defending. Because that's what he did. That's who he was. Not a hero. Just a man who refused to look away. 10 years after the spit, a reporter asked Jenny if she ever regretted what happened. "Regret the humiliation every day," she said, "but regret what came after, never. That moment showed me who I was. Showed my son what strength looks like. Showed a community what happens when people care more about each other than about staying comfortable." "What would you tell your younger self, the woman standing there with spit on her face?" Jenny thought for a long moment. "I'd tell her what Marcus told me that day. You're worth 10 of him. Maybe 100. And everyone watching knows it. I'd tell her that the worst moments don't define us. How we respond defines us, and how others respond reveals who they really are." And Braden, what would you tell him? "I'd tell him what I tell him every Tuesday morning when he shows up to work. Thank you for proving people can change. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for mattering." The interview ended. The article ran. Life continued. And every Tuesday morning at 6:00 a.m., Table 9, filled with bikers who believed that dignity wasn't a luxury, it was a requirement. That respect wasn't given based on bank accounts, but earned through how you treated people when nobody forced you to be decent. That showing up, really showing up, was the only currency that actually counted. Because sometimes the smallest act of courage starts a wildfire. And sometimes that wildfire doesn't destroy. It rebuilds. Better, stronger, more human. That's what happened in a small Montana diner on a Tuesday morning when a rich teen made the worst decision of his life, and 10 bikers decided that enough was enough. That's what happened when a waitress refused to be invisible and a community refused to look away. That's what happened when consequences met compassion, when humility met opportunity, when shame transformed into something resembling grace. A woman found her strength. A boy found his character. A family found their purpose. A community found their voice. And dignity, real dignity, the kind that can't be bought or sold or taken away, won. Not because it was easy, not because it was guaranteed, but because enough people believed it was worth fighting for. That's the story. That's the truth. That's what happens when ordinary people make extraordinary choices. When they stand up. When they show up. When they refuse to accept that cruelty is just the cost of living in a world that doesn't care. The world does care. When you show it how. And that Tuesday morning in Montana, when the spit hit Jenny's face and Marcus stood up and Braden's life changed forever, proved something that needed proving. That respect isn't inherited. It's chosen. Every day. In every interaction. With every person. Rich or poor. Powerful or powerless. Famous or forgotten. Everyone deserves dignity. Everyone. No exceptions. That's not just a nice idea. It's the foundation of being human. And the moment we forget that we lose something we can never get back. But the moment we remember, the moment we stand up and defend it and show up for it and prove it matters, we become something we were always meant to be. Better than we were. Closer to who we could be. That's the lesson. That's the point. That's why this story matters. Because it's not about a waitress or a teenager or bikers or a diner. It's about us. All of us. Every one of us. And the choice we make every single day, look away or stand up. Jenny chose to stand despite everything. Marcus chose to stand without hesitation. Braden chose to learn instead of hide. A community chose to care instead of forget. And that choice, that simple, difficult, necessary choice, changed everything. That's the power we have. That's the responsibility we carry. That's the truth we can't ignore. Dignity matters. People matter. Showing up matters. And when we act like it, the world becomes a place worth living in. Not perfect. Never perfect. But better. Always better. One choice at a time. One stand at a time. One Tuesday morning at a time. That's how change happens. That's how grace works. That's how humans become human again. It starts with refusing to look away. And it never, ever stops. Because the moment we stop fighting for dignity, ours, theirs, everyone's, we lose the only thing that makes us worth saving. So we fight. We stand. We show up. We matter. Just like Jenny did. Just like Marcus did. Just like Braden learned to do. Just like all of us can if we choose it. That's the story. That's the truth. And that truth doesn't end when the telling stops. It continues every time someone stands up for someone else. Every time dignity defeats cruelty. Every time ordinary people prove that extraordinary things happen when we simply refuse to accept that being cruel is normal. It's not normal. It's never normal. And it's never acceptable. Remember that. Live that. Be that. That's how you honor Jenny's story. That's how you make Marcus's stand matter. That's how you prove Braden's change was real. You show up. You stand up. You matter. Every single day, starting now. That's the lesson from a Montana diner on a Tuesday morning when everything changed because people decided dignity was worth defending. And they were right.